Sweet. Y'all ready for this?
Yeah.
Y'all ready for this? You guys better be ready for this because this is another episode of The Forbidden Scrolls, where we talk about the apocryphal texts, where we talk about all the hush-hush stuff you shouldn't be talking about, you shouldn't be reading, and that is why we're doing it. Today we have an interesting one. We're going to be doing a Roswell alien interview from Matilda O'Donnell Macelroy, who was a nurse for the Army Air Corps in 1947. Apparently, when the Roswell crash happened, there were bodies recovered, and one of the bodies was actually still alive. When they brought the body to the base, they were going to perform a medical examination on it, and the nurse that was asked to perform the examination, lo and behold, to her surprise, was able to communicate with the alien. And the alien grew, I guess, fond of the nurse and refused to communicate with anybody else for a number of specific reasons that we'll get into as we read. But that's the background of where this interview came from. So supposedly this is from one of the aliens who was downed in the 1947 Roswell crash. Wild. And it has
juicy stuff.
Yeah, juicy stuff, and it has a lot of cool connections with the other texts we're talking about, such as the Urantian book, the Keys of Enoch, ET-101, the Law of One, some Timothy Wiley stuff. There's a lot of cross-correlating points, and we want to hopefully shed some light on them. So enjoy the ride, strap up, tune in. Let's get after it. Anybody else got anything to say before we jump in?
I think that was perfect, man. Just play the Space Jam theme. That's all we need.
Cut the Space Jam. Cut the
Yeah.
Space Jam. Follow us on Instagram. Our handles will be right below this video. Alright, we're going to jump right into the interview because there's a big preface and a big preamble that explained what I just kind of explained, but it's a long read, so...
Yeah, I mean, we should note that this is telepathy, speaking via telepathy.
Yeah, true.
Yes.
Yeah, aliens don't use mouth noises. What are they, barbarians?
Also, we could skip
No, we're
ahead.
We're going to start by Chapter 1. We're going to start, Chapter 1. There you go. Alright, from the top. Chapter 1. My first interview with the alien. Oh, we'll put a PDF in the description. PDF link. Chapter 1. By the time the alien had been returned to the base, I had already spent several hours with her. As I mentioned, Mr. Cavett told me to stay with the alien, since I was the only person among us who could understand her communication. I could not understand my ability to communicate with the being. I had never before that time experienced telepathic communication with anyone. The non-verbal communication I experienced was like the understanding you might have when a child or a dog is trying to get you to understand something, but much more direct and powerful. Even though there were no words spoken, signs made, even though there were no words spoken or signs made, the intention of the thoughts were unmistakable to me. I realized later that, although I received the thought, I did not necessarily interpret its meaning exactly. That's interesting. That goes a lot to do with our other episode we were talking about, with like the ideographic cybernetics, telethought communication. I think that the alien being was not willing to discuss technical matters due to the nature of her position as an officer and pilot with the duty to maintain the security and confidentiality required by her own unit or organization. Any soldier who was captured by the enemy in the line of duty has a responsibility to withhold vital information, even in the face of interrogation or torture, of course. But in spite of that, I have always felt that the alien being was not really trying to hide anything from me. I just never got the feeling. Her communication always seemed honest and sincere to me, but I suppose you can never know for sure. I definitely feel that I shared a unique bond with the alien. It was a kind of trust or empathy that you have with a patient or a child. I think this is because the alien could understand that I was really interested in her and had no harmful intention, nor would I allow any harm to come to her if I could prevent it. This was true too. This is written so weird, dude. I referred to the alien as her. Actually, the being was not sexual in any way, either physiologically or psychologically. She did have a rather strong feminine presence and demeanor. However, in terms of physiology, the being was asexual and had no internal or external reproductive organs. Her body was more like the body of a doll or robot. There were no internal organs as the body was not constructed of biological cells. It did have a kind of circuit system or electrical nervous system that ran throughout the body, but I could not understand how it worked. I want to take a little pause there. I'll definitely put a quote up here. If anybody can pull it, that'd be cool right now. I can probably do it real quick. In the Urantian book, when Jesus, after he dies and reappears in his Mirancha body, he gives some insight on what this Mirancha body is. Elsewhere in the Urantian book, it gives you insight on what a Mirancha body is. For those who are listening and don't know what a Mirancha body is, it's your light body. It's the body you get after you die. Jesus explains when he appears in the Mirancha body, and elsewhere in the Urantian book, it explains that these bodies are different. They're made up of a different material. They're not of flesh and blood, but they do have an active circulatory system. Not a blood circulatory system, but like an electric circulatory system, or like a spiritual circulatory system, if that makes sense. So, the two quotes I have, one of the quote is from the Jesus papers that I was talking about. It says, when he resurrects, he explains to the apostles that the mortals of the realms will arise in the morning of the resurrection with the same type of transition or Mirancha body that Jesus had when he arose from the tomb on this Sunday morning. These bodies do not have circulating blood, and such beings do not partake in ordinary material food. Nevertheless, these Mirancha forms are real. When the various believers saw Jesus after his resurrection, they really saw him. They were not the self-deceived victims of visions or hallucinations. And then elsewhere, it just says that the Mirancha bodies are absent of sex differentiation, so they don't have reproductive organs. So it's like we have to understand that the cosmos heaven has geophysical locations, and because heaven isn't on the globe, you can't say geophysical. We're going to say astrophysical. Astrophysical locations, actual locations in time and space on a cosmic grid. The what we consider like the mansion world or the spiritual dimensions are really just other planets. You know, they're planets around Orion. Like we would consider them just a super advanced civilization existing in like maybe a lighter body, a lighter dimension, and they'd be real. You'd be able to walk up to them and be like, oh shit, those are real beings. You know, I don't know. Like, because I know there's a scale of Mirancha. Maybe the lowest type of Mirancha body would be able to land and interact with our type of body. And it would be absent of sex organs, and it wouldn't have circulating blood. Those are just all of the data points that are lining up, which is interesting that this being also is talking about the same data points. What is also a little side note, which is what I like to really get crazy with, is Lucifer, according to some wild texts, Lucifer also tried to create his own type of Adamic species. He wanted to make his own type of humanoid, just like how the Father and the Universals did. He had at his disposal a core of life carriers, and the life carriers specialize in doing this. They specialize in creating new genetic life plasms and or just making new bipedal hominid forms. This is what they do. So Lucifer tried to create his own bipedal hominid species that was similar to us, because we are the natural, more normal type, the universal cosmic divine type. I guess these beings, some people call them the Greys, or some people call them, a perversion of personality forms that Lucifer decided to create, what would these forms look like? You know, if we were to stumble upon one, if we were to stumble upon a Grey, who's a Luciferian creation, what kind of template is Lucifer using to create these bodies? Are they sexual or are they asexual? Are they devoid of spirit and only mental, like some people say the Greys are? You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to figure out what type of body and what type of being is being interacted with here by, what is it, McIntyre?
Macelroy.
Sorry, Matilda.
Don't besiege the name of Matilda.
I was gonna say those are some ancient names, Doug. But
She's
Probably
Irish.
be more gray like.
That's what I'm
like
saying.
Robotic, almost like, I guess, lacking in emotion, lacking in like, I picture like a heavenly-esque Morancha body, almost like a elvish, angelic,
Okay. Like from Lord of the
glowing
Rings.
light.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that kind of archetype. And then I picture
Cue the
other
racist.
side of the coin. Yeah, exactly. And then I picture the other side of the coin as a gray, almost like robotic, no emotion, like you said, no sexual organs. It's just kind of like a robot. Yeah, it's like literally, it's definitely probably functioning at a higher level in the sense that it can outthink us in a way, but it's not, I don't know, it's not associated with like love, it's not associated with I don't know, light, I guess. I don't really know. I don't know, but definitely more associated with the gray archetype, for sure.
Yeah, and thanks for saying that. That's a great point of view. And for our viewers, I guess the main point that I'm trying to figure out is who is this entity and where does it come from? Because we all know that there's a war in heaven. I'm using layman's terms here because I'm not going to talk your ear off. There's a war in heaven and the aliens are fighting. There's two different groups. There's good guys and bad guys. The bad guys are trying to take over planets and create their own galactic federation, or whatever you want to call it. The good guys, the divine guys, the angels have been here for a long time. Lucifer was in charge of the bad guys, and he decided to, I'm going to rebel against the universe, and I'm going to start taking planets over in my name, because that's what I'm going to do. I say there is no God, there is no Father, and I'm just going to rule in my own name. So that's what's happening. There's aliens that believe there is God, and there's aliens that believe there is no God. Okay? Atheists and non-atheists. Earth has been caught in the middle of these two parties warring over ideologies and control over the universal sectors. Because we're caught up in this, we have had a lot of different interactions with the spectrum of good and bad guys, and we don't know who's who because we're so dumb. Some of the good guys, or some of the bad guys, look really good. Some of the bad guys are good angels that just rebelled, so they look exactly like beautiful angels.
Fallen angels.
Yep. Some of them are created beings by the fallen angels, such as the Greys. So when we're reading this and scanning and analyzing this, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Who is this being, and is it from a rebellious faction, or is it from a positive? Is it a benevolent, or is it a malevolent ET race, is what I'm trying to figure out. And the way it looks, we all know, if you're here and you're into any type of ufology or ancient aliens, you know the Greys aren't associated with the good guys, right? So I guess it's going to explain exactly what it looks like here, so let's dive into that. Anybody else got anything to say? No? In stature and appearance, the body was quite short and petite, about 40 inches tall. The head was disproportionately large relative to arms, legs, and torso, which were thin. There were 3 fingers on each of 2 hands, and feet, which were somewhat prehensile. The head had no operational nose or mouth or ears. I understood that a space officer does not need these, as space has no atmosphere to conduct sound. Therefore, sound-related sensory organs are not built into the body, nor does the body need to consume food, hence the absence of a mouth. The eyes were quite large. I was never able to determine the exact degree of visual acuity of which the eyes were capable, but I observed that her sense of sight must have been extremely acute. I think the lenses of the eyes, which were very dark and opaque, may also have been able to detect waves or particles beyond the visual spectrum of light. I suspect that this may have included the full range of the electromagnetic spectrum, or more, but I do not know this for sure. When the being looked at me, her gaze seemed to penetrate right through me, as if she had X-ray vision. I found this a little embarrassing at first, until I realized that she had no sexual intentions. In fact, I don't think she ever even had the thought that I was male or female. It became very obvious after a short time with the being that her body did not require oxygen, food, or water, or any other external source of nutrition or energy. As I learned later, this being supplied her own energy, which animated and operated the body. It seemed a little bit eerie at first, but I got used to the idea. It is really a very, very simple body. There is not much to it compared to our own bodies. Airl explained to me that it was not mechanical like a robot, nor was it biological. It is animated directly by her as a spiritual being. Technically, from a medical standpoint, I would say that Airl's body could not even be called alive. Her doll body is not a biological life form, with cells and so forth. It had a smooth skin and covering which was gray in color. The body was highly tolerant to changes in temperature, atmospheric conditions, and pressure. The limbs were quite frail, without musculature. In space, there is no gravity, so very little muscle strength is needed. The body was used almost entirely on spacecraft or in low or no gravity environments. Since Earth has a heavy gravity, the body was not able to walk around very well, as the legs were not really suited to that purpose. The feet and the hands were quite flexible and agile, however. Motion picture camera was set up. A bunch of professionals were sent in. A bunch of code breakers. Professor in psychology. An interpreter. And a stenographer. That's cute. Alright, to the official transcript. Top secret official transcript of the U.S. Army Air Force, Roswell Army Airfield, 509th Bomb Group, subject, alien interview, 9/7/1947. Question, are you injured? Answer, no. Question, what medical assistance do you require? Answer, none. Question, do you need food or water or other sustenance? Answer, no.
Hey man, I don't think you should say question and answer. Sorry.
No?
I think that's a little redundant.
Okay.
I think people will be able to get it.
No, good call. You nip it in the bud before it starts happening more. I like that. I appreciate the insight. Do you have any special environmental needs, such as air temperature, atmospheric chemical content, air pressure, or waste elimination? No, I am not a biological being. Does your body or spacecraft carry any germs or contamination that may be harmful to humans or Earth or other Earth life forms? No germs in space. Does your government know you are here? She says, no, not at this time. Are others of your kind going to come looking for you? Yes. What is the weapons capability of your people? Very destructive. I did not understand the exact nature of the kind of arms or weapons that they might have, but I did not feel that there was any malevolent intention in her reply, just a statement of fact. Why did your spacecraft crash? It was struck by an electrical discharge from the atmosphere which caused us to lose control. Why was your spacecraft in the area? Investigation of burning clouds, radiation, explosions. How does your spacecraft fly? It is controlled through mind, responds to thought commands.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's what the Keys of Enoch talks about, how ships are created like that, which is super interesting. Mind or thought command are the only English language words I can think of to describe the thought. Their bodies and I think the spacecraft are connected directly to them through some kind of electrical nervous system that they control with their own thoughts. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I guess while we're here talking about it, yeah, the keys talk about how the higher intelligence can, I guess, put like, let's say 7 spherical electromagnets in the shape of a Merkaba, or like the Star of David, at every point. And they can modulate every point of the electromagnet, because it's a sphere, in separately. So apparently you can like modulate all 7. If you had like a big room and you had these 7 spheres set up like a Merkaba in the middle of the room, you could change the electromagnetic frequency of the overall shape, and you can have it, he says, interface with the human being, the human biolattice matrix. Because we all have like a specific signature, you can like tune into the frequency of the human, and then once you can create that connection, once you can modulate the Merkaba to the correct human frequency, you can oscillate thought forms back and forth and communicate directly. And that can be your controller for devices such as craft, ships, other things. So it's like a direct mental interface. Like Neuralink without putting chips in your brain.
Mm. Oh.
Yeah, because your mind gives off electromagnetic frequencies and pulses. You can like sync in with it. It's pretty gnarly.
Damn. Yeah.
Right. All right. Question: how do your people communicate with each other? Through mind, thought. The words mind and thought combined together are the closest English language words I can think of to describe at this time. So, just a little pause for everybody. We'll probably skip, after this chapter, we'll skip ahead, because the first couple of interactions, the alien doesn't know English. After a couple of time speaking together, the nurse ends up bringing Airl, the alien, books, stacks of books. And the alien would finish the books by the morning, and then would be able to communicate with the nurse a lot more smoothly, because she now knows English. But let's finish this first one. That's why these are all just like one-word answers that the alien's giving. Do you have a written language or symbols for communication? Yes. What planet are you from? The home. Birthplace, world of the domain. Since I am not an astronomer, I have no way of thinking in terms of stars, galaxies, constellations, and directions in space. The impression I received was of a planet in the center of a huge cluster of galaxies that is, to her, like home, or birthplace. The word domain is the closest word I can think of to describe her concept, images, and thoughts about where she is from. It could as easily be called the territory or the realm. However, I am sure that it was not just a planet or solar system or a cluster of stars, but an enormous number of galaxies. Question.
That's big.
Yeah, that's huge. That's giving you some insight onto who these people are. They claim to be in charge of numerous planets or have some type of infrastructure that consists of different planetary systems. Question: will your government send representatives to meet with our leaders? No. What are your intentions concerning Earth? Preserve, protect property of the domain. I don't like how she said that.
Why?
Property of the, like...
We're cattle.
Yeah, like, what? We're your property, dog? Like, you better chill.
Probably, man.
Well, later on, she goes into saying that we only care about the resources of Earth.
Dude, these things are so advanced, they probably look at us like cattle, like we look at cows.
And honestly...
You have to understand.
I had a problem with that statement when I first heard it, and the second time, and I was like, she's using very primitive thought form communication. She hasn't learned English yet, right?
Yeah.
So, like, property, she just said in the sentence above, domain is the best word I could have thought of. I could have said territory or realm. Property, that's just a word to convey an intention. It could mean, like, custodian, or like, you're in our care. You're in our care. You're our stewardship, Like,
yeah, exactly. Property to us is like, this is mine. It's egotistical in a way.
Yeah, so it's just maybe a translation miscommunication issue. But let's keep going.
Hopefully, maybe we literally are their property.
Or yeah, maybe like, you niggas are ours. Question: what have you learned about Earth governments and military installations? poor, small, destroy planet. Damn.
I think that as in we're destroying our planet, not I think I mean I don't think it's like a command. I think it's like
yeah.
our governments are destroying the planet.
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, I took it the correct way, but yeah, someone could be like, that's a command. We must destroy the planet. They have a poor, small military.
Yeah.
Now they're saying that our military is poor and small, and they destroy our planet. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Question: why haven't your people made your existence known to the people of Earth? Watch, observe, no contact. I got the impression that contact with people on Earth was not permitted, but I could not think of a word or idea that communicated the impression I got exactly. They are just observing us. Yeah, they can't make contact or else Gabriel and AOD will come and start smacking fools. Have your people visited Earth? Have your people visited Earth previously? Periodic, repeating observations. How long have you known about Earth? Long before humans. I'm not sure if the word prehistoric would be more accurate, but it was definitely a very long period of time before human beings evolved. What do you know about the history of civilization on Earth? Small interest, attention, small time. The answer to this question seemed very vague to me. However, I perceive that her interest in Earth history is not very strong, or that she did not pay much attention to it. Or maybe, I don't know. I didn't really get an answer to the question. Can you describe your homeworld to us? Place of civilization, culture, history, large planet, wealth, resources always, order, power, knowledge, wisdom, 2 stars, 3 moons. That's cool, because other books talk about other planets that are around multiple star systems. They usually tend to advance a lot faster than a planet around a single star system like ours. Question: what is the state of development of your civilization? Ancient, trillions of years, always, above all others, plan, schedule, progress, win, high goals, ideas.
Sorry.
Yeah, dude, as well. I mean, for real, it's red flag right there. Ring the bell, whistle,
Yeah.
blow the whistle. Like, is that how an angel talks, or is that Matilda's mind putting words on the thought forms that she's getting beamed in, you know?
It's Matilda's mind, but the closest thing that we can convey, the closest
Right.
translation probably. I don't think that an angel even talks in the way that we talk. There is no talk. It's probably just like, it's probably like
Feelings.
almost like one mind. It's like constant communication, constant telepathy. Like there is no word. There is no like symbol. It's probably just like these. I picture these beings as almost not having a sense of individuality, almost like a sense of hive mind where they're in constant communication.
Yeah, supposedly that's how it works, right?
That's what it seems like to me, but then, they recognize that we have a sense of individuality, so they have to do their best to be able to convey it in our sense of individuality. They convey their sense of mind to us, and that's why it's kind of like almost cryptic in a way, that the way that they speak, because they probably don't know what it's like to have a sense of individuality, or they know what it's like, but it's just like they're so advanced. It's like they got to take themselves down so many levels. I don't know.
Yeah, and once you get onto a planet that's super advanced, it's retarded. Sorry, forgive me. It's stupid to not play as a team, to not work as a team. Like if everybody on planet Earth worked together, we would get so much more done. On other planets, they figured this out already. So now every day, like it's all about the team, the hive mind, and if like that's normal because they're all on the same goal. When every human puts their mind to it, they can get that shit done. If we were to be transported to a planet like that where everybody is functioning as one extremely cohesive unit, we'd think it's kind of weird. We'd be like, that's fucking weird. They're all like, it's like a totalitarian government. Like they're all on the same thing, doing the same thing, you know what I'm saying? But because they have lack of individuality, They don't really lack individuality. They have individuality, but they chose to use it for a team purpose, you know. Therefore, they get conditioned and used to talking like that. When they speak to us, it's hard for them to, bring it down to that individual level again, because they're so used to that hive mind.
It's kind of like they still have individuality, but humans have an extreme sense of individuality. You know, I have a name. They probably don't even have names. Like, these things are probably just like, they just know that they are individual nodes, but they don't have, like, their own story and name and labels that they place upon themselves. And it's like they're still individual, but really not. They've progressed way past the egotistical state that we find ourselves in. I don't know. You think about that, right? Like, are we evolving to that level where we're just gonna lose our sense of personality? I mean, still have it, obviously, but not where it's destructive. Like, still have a sense of individuality, but also get the good parts of the hive mind at the same time. It seems like that's where we're going. Like, that oneness that we speak of, being all connected to God, I guess you could say. It does seem like we're becoming more hive mind-like. And that seems a little scary to the ego, right? You think about that. It's like, oh, shit. I'm going to lose my sense of self. But it's like losing a sense of self, lowercase s self, and gaining a capital S self. And we just got to get through our ego first.
So this is like a really popular topic, and I think that the thought adjuster concept actually covers this. So we've talked about this before on the channel. Everyone has an inner light, a sort of inner spark of the source consciousness, you know, the first mind to ever have self-perception in the universe. Or this is before the universe, before any manifestation of anything. And so there's this concept called the thought adjuster concept that the Urantian book describes heavily as like a very real reality, maybe one of the realest, probably the realest of realities. And it's that source consciousness that actually splits up into one of the first types of individualizations of the father source consciousness is these thought adjuster things. So it's and people often use the term hologram because each of these individuations still contains the whole of the source consciousness, but it's still some type of individuation. Now, what Urantian says is that what these thought adjusters don't have is personality. And so what the source consciousness that only has the experience of oneness does is that it sort of splits off into duality, and it bestows personality, which is like the core ego, the sense of individuality. It bestows that on a lot of these animal origin beings in the evolutionary universes. And also any type of being that contains individuality will have this personality. And then there's this other part where it's a fragment of the father, the thought adjuster, but they don't have personality. And so that's the dynamic range of source consciousness. And then the way that they meet in the middle is that the thought adjusters volunteer in the mind of the personalities. And if they work together, if they sync up, they can literally travel the universe like without restriction. Except on like an absolute level. If you're talking about a level like before the Trinity, it's like there's always some kind of limit for anyone with individuation. But if you want to be the most unfettered, that's where you step into spiritualization. And I think Airl even has some stuff to say later on about how we as individuals can spiritualize and maintain our freedom, because she talks a lot about some prison concepts. You know, this later on we get into some prison planet theory, and it's pretty hefty. So
yeah, we're gonna skip over to that part after this one for sure.
Hefty.
We're just a bunch of Isbies stuck on a prison planet, dogs.
Hey, in the video, this is the line that I was gonna bring up before we were recording. The paraphrasing, it said one question or one topic it went down was like if it was exploring the far reaches of the universe, looking for a hell-like realm,
they would stop no further at Earth.
Earth would be very exactly.
Go no further and stop at Earth. Yeah.
That one struck me. I was like, oh shit.
Yep. Earth would be the bill.
Yeah. But not for long.
Man, I mean, what's more badass than Doom, bro? Going and fucking going to where the demons are and thriving, fucking murking them, coming out victorious, dude.
Yeah, man. That's the story of humanity. It's like going through hell to get to heaven.
Hell yeah, straight up.
Hell yeah.
Well, we got the highest achieving adjusters coming here.
You already know the deal, dog. Fucking linked up. So, dude, it's like parachuting behind enemy lines and you're by yourself and you gotta link up with your team. Hey, we're linking up right now. I'm looking at you fools. Good shit. But, alright.
Well, what I thought was interesting was they call this a prison planet, Urantian calls this a quarantine planet, and JJ Hurtek from the Keys claims that we're on a reincarnation cycle until we break it. And all three seem to be just talking about the same thing.
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
This one talks about it very slanderish.
This one talks about it differently, saying that we chose to incarnate here, or we were sent here as prisoners from other planets.
That's
to
interesting.
be in a biological body as a
Yeah,
punishment.
they're addressing like Adam and Eve, Prince Caligastia, all them, like the Caligastia staff, all like the student visitors who are locked here during quarantine,
Well, they take it a step further and say that these rebellious beings used electromagnetic.
All right, let's get there. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. We'll skip to that chapter. After
Yeah, we're going off the record.
Because I really want to address that point right there. Right, you were talking about Drew.
Yo, this is a good one, right? The next line. Do you believe in God?
Yeah.
The answer is, we think it is. Make it continue. Always. That's good. We make it continue.
That shows that they believe in the creator. Like, I'm thinking it's speaking like in that weird, like non-linear type. He goes like, we think it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, later they talk about how all they have to do is think to create, and that they all consider themselves gods, which is kind of strange.
Sketchy.
Very sketchy.
Well, no. So if they're highly aware of the adjuster, so when they're talking about your true nature as an is-be, that's a mix of your soul identity, and yeah, we know that like having we are creators in conjunction with the spiritual circuits that we can connect to. So it does match up, but I understand some of the other concerns when people use the phrase, we are gods, because it can easily be distorted.
Yeah, unless they're like finaliters.
Ye are gods.
Because they do talk about
even
being trillions of years old.
I'd
I mean, that would be like finaliter status.
We're embryo gods. We're potential. We're embryonic like manifestation of deity. So like we're potential manifestation of deity. We're not gods yet. You have to qualify to be a god. What have you done to be a fucking god, dog? Nothing. You sat in your ass and talk shit. Yeah, if you want to be, you can get there. Because I guess the human vehicle has the ability to perform and function in every other personality type in the universe. So any other angel that exists, we have the ability to function in that position, in that role. But we have to qualify and earn our position there. You're not a god now. You're a fucking baby. You're a little pussy. Fucking earn that shit.
Yeah. It's like in a way we are. In that way, we are just not yet.
Yeah.
And it's like
potential.
To get to that yetness, like to get to that, you have to believe that you are. It almost seems counterintuitive. It's like you have to stay humble, know that you're just like this humanly vessel with all of its faults, but at the same time realize what you're striving for. So it's like don't get too egotistical, like I'm a god, but then also recognize that you know what you're working for. It's like stay humble, but at the same time strive for greatness.
And understand the second you say I'm a god, that's a distortion, because it's okay to want to be like God. The entire meaning of life is to be like God, to want to be like God. But God,
say godly.
But God doesn't go around acting like that. He doesn't even impose himself on you. So like God's not going around saying I'm God, So why are you going around saying I'm God? Because that's a distortion immediately. Because that's not. If you want to be like a God, act like a God, and God doesn't act like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's funny. Yeah.
Well, that's why I think slightly distorted what that Airl is saying, right?
Yeah, she says some. She throws some funny calling cards out in some interesting ways. But let's see what happens. All right. I'm sure that the alien being does not understand the concept of God worship as we do. I assume that the people in her civilization were all atheists. That's funny how she says that, because when I read that, I was like, oh no, it believes in the source. And then she goes, I think they're atheists. My impression was that they think very highly of themselves and are very prideful indeed. Like, to me, if an alien says, like, yeah, we think it is, make it continue always, I'd be like, okay, they believe in God.
Well, I think they're atheists to the version of the humanly God of dogma. And I think the alien is actually getting closer to the true essence of what God is.
Yeah, true that.
And the human doesn't quite understand the alien at this point. So it's just getting lost in translation right here. So yeah, to the human, it's an atheistic God, but it's because that's the human. What's her name? The
Matilda.
Nurse? Oh, Matilda doesn't quite understand that kind of God. So I think it's just that she doesn't understand.
I think when Matilda perceives pride, I think what she's actually perceiving is highly confident. You know, we're talking about this Airl being says she's like millions, or is it billions? How old? Like, she's saying from a time point of, later on, Airl says from a time point of view, she's like in the millions of years old. So like, when you meet somebody who's highly confident and they don't have self-identity, questions, and they're at peace with their mind, they have a quiet thought stream. Sometimes when they talk, you might be like, who is it? Like, who is this? Depending on what edge they put on their voice, they might know how to neutralize it, or they might be, like military people, very focused commanders, that kind of vibe where it's like, no, that's not pride. That is,
that's who they are.
It's like it's a sharpness of mind. It's like, if you connected mind to mind, you would just be like, whoa.
I get it. Yeah. 100%. What type of society do you have? Order, power, future always, control, grow. These are the closest words I could use to describe the idea she had about her own society or civilization. Her emotion when communicating her response to this question became very intense, very bright and emphatic. Her thought was filled with an emotion that gave me a feeling of jubilation or joy, but it made me very nervous also. Dang. When she talked about what type of society did you have, and she thought about her planet and her society, and she got all confident, it made the human feel nervous because of how confident the alien was, probably. Goddamn. Are there other intelligent life forms besides yourself in the universe? Everywhere. We are greatest, highest of all. Red flag.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know, they could be, so if you're like doing things better and you're like more stable than other societies, like it's not, sometimes it's just straight up a fact.
Yeah,
that you're doing, that you're, if you looked at the systematic metrics of like stable society, personal freedom, resource control, in time and space, it's like, if you don't manage your resources, you're going to be in a decline. It sounds like they have their shit together, and they're like, look, we're the best, we're the biggest in the industry, like, we know we're the top 1%. And again, that's not, I don't think that that's a prideful statement on Earth when people say that. It's often pride, and it's like, okay, well, do you know how to measure if you're the best? But like, when you're, I don't know, I'm very impressed by the continuing dialogue, and I think that there's, when they say we are the greatest, sure, no one's perfect, but like, who knows, maybe this is the biggest galactic federation, and that's why they say they're the greatest, because they know that, like, from their view of how large the universe is, they know that they are the most organized group.
Yeah. Well, what's the end goal to humanity? To hook up with the Galactic Federation, right? And is there only one federation?
No. For lack of better terms, there's two.
All right, so are they against each other, or are they with each other?
Against.
Well, so I see it as local sectors. So like, okay, the planets that are like just closest to like maybe our trade routes, or like the five closest planets to our planet, they're gonna like probably team up together based on proximity, or they're just teaming up together because they have a long history of working together. But there's like that's like a working group. It's like, what makes a council? Oh, you just get 3 people together. 2 people is a friendship. 3 people is a social group. So like you can call that a council. Now, as far as who validates the council, Urantia, the councils on Urantia are talking about like a high universal view. It's like the angelic order. It's like those councils, that hierarchy is respected by beings all up the chain. The thing with galactic federations is that like it's really just civilizations. It's leaders and civilizations who are like, you know, doing deals behind the scenes and working together. So those are like small working groups versus like a large federation. But then again, if your federation has 1,000 planets, there's still going to be another federation of more or less planets somewhere else. It's proximity, grouping, and it's like, if you know about more than one federation, you're going to have to choose, why would I want to join that federation over this one? Well, it's going to be like, what's the working group like? You know, we're going to be trading things. I get this out of this. They get this. I want to talk to that person. You know, it's just like, it's similar social dynamics on Earth, but obviously there's other higher concepts involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's to counteract that viewpoint. It's a beautiful way to put it. You fucking sympathizer. So the
Old Empire scum.
Hey, hold up, we're not there yet. Yeah, okay, so there's different levels of universe, like Taylor was saying. Yeah, there's like sector, there's Norlashadek constellation, there's system, there's local universe. The people from the Urantia book we're assuming the highest level of cosmic authority that exists. Apparently, these high angelic types don't interact with lower systems whatsoever, very much, unless they're sending a representative directly to that planet. For the most part, the local systems govern themselves in some weird way, and they pledge allegiance to like Michael and the Father. So like there could be like multiple Galactic Federation A, B, and C, but they all recognize Michael as the sovereign, right? But they only hold a certain slice of the universe. Michael holds like the entire local universe, you know. Maybe there is one Galactic Federation D who didn't like Michael's universe and decided to align with the Lucifer Rebellion. So now that local galactic sector is considered in rebellion, but you're allowed to operate in rebellion. The angels aren't going to come and just fuck you up. They allow you to operate, I guess. It's like a free will law, I guess. That's one way to look at it. Like, I guess, like Tay Chilla's talking about, like that is that kind of how you were talking about it, Taylor? Like different levels.
Yeah, my level was basically talking about, okay, the federations that Earth is about to interact with within the next like 50 years, like publicly speaking, like that is not going to be anything close to like Federation or Morantia or spiritual hierarchy. That is literally just other time-space planets.
The next planet
like
over.
Doing working groups. It's just going to be like a bigger, you know, we already do this on Earth, so now it's going to go to these different planets. But yeah, Dedrick is right. If you're talking about spiritual hierarchy, there is like, you know, one main hierarchy with the angels, the angelic system, and the creator beings. And then there's like those like angelic beings who like don't want to work in that system, and that's called a rebel hierarchy, and that's from a spiritual point of view. But like on the material point of view, most of these planets, they have no idea about Michael, about the creator beings. That might be in their philosophies, but they don't have interaction with that unless they're like a planet that's in what's called like light and life, which is like onto the Morantial education system. And that's when you normally find out about these concepts. Urantia book claims to be a book that is like presenting these ideas like way ahead of its time, because it says that because, you know, angels and beings who have been throughout the universe have put that info together, you know, you can get a little preview of how these systems are actually organized.
Yeah, and now that we have that picture in our head, let's go back to that question. Are there other intelligent life forms besides yourself in the universe? Answer. Everywhere. We are greatest, highest of all. Coming from a fucking little gray with no mouth? Dude.
This ain't a gray.
Alright. Call it what you want. I don't know.
It appears as a gray.
It appears as a gray. From the writing, we don't have a picture of it, but the enlarged head, 3 fingers, 3 toes, short stature, gray skin. But alright, let's
Well, yeah.
Okay,
Later on, she says her body is significantly different than the other 2 bodies that they found.
Ooh, good point, Astros. Thank you for saying that.
I think the other 2 did look like grays, though.
Ooh, maybe one of those weird officer grays that they talk about. Okay, so, but gray being the answer, the question directly is, are there other intelligent life forms besides you in the universe? That's a huge term. And then the freaking thing goes everywhere. Yeah, there's life. We are greatest, highest of all. What, are you putting yourself above Michael and the angels? What do you mean when you're saying that shit?
Maybe they're with Michael and the angels, and that's why they're saying they're the greatest.
Oh, good point.
There's zero mention of Michael or Jesus in the papers, which...
But it does. It fits within the ISB concept.
No,
she talks about how ISB on the creator level will like create from thought, like, and that's like into the mental plane philosophy. So
I think
there.
I think she throws shade in a certain section, but let's finish this. All right, that was the last question of this one. Due to her small stature, I'm sure that she did not mean tallest or biggest. Again, her prideful nature showed through her in the feeling I received from her. Cool. That was the first. That was the end of that first little transcript. I'm gonna go pee real quick. Can somebody find where she opens up? Remember, after she reads all the books, she goes, "Okay, I'm ready to talk now," and she kind of just fucking lets it rip.
You want to start from there, Ben?
Yeah. If you can, you control F it and type. I want to talk about that space opera shit.